Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tag12, however you call me, I don't really care, and welcome back to Wolf Tanks. And welcome to a beautiful tank, self-propelled gun, SPG, artillery. Yes, today we're going to be playing the Object 212A, and there is a reason behind that. And the reason being is the changes that Wargaming have done to artillery in the last patch. Now, 1.5 has addressed some issues of artillery, or at least they tried something, and the artillery, the apocalypse, where no one was playing artillery anymore, well, that didn't set in, so all the panic that the artillery players previously had that no one was going to be able to play artillery anymore, well, that didn't set in. And, the joyful cries of all the people who were one-shot by artillery, hoping that artillery would get nerfed to shreds, well, that didn't set in either. Basically, what Wargaming did with that little patch is try to address artillery a little bit to make the people happy who are constantly, who have been complaining for years and years and years that artillery is broken. And I myself have been a part of that group. And then obviously they didn't want to make the people angry who only play artillery, mainly because they're sadists and they have absolutely no remorse and no morality. No, I'm just kidding, but not really. Yeah, it's a bit difficult. Let's put it like that. Artillery and me, that is a relationship that doesn't really go hand in hand. Now, if we take a look at my service record, now I have quite a few games you can see right here, and we, rank it in battles played. You'll see I have a lot of tanks, a lot of premium vehicles that only have like 1 or 2 games played in, but you can see that out of my top 10 vehicles that there is not a single artillery. But if you do go down a little bit, you can see that there's a tier 8 artillery piece hiding in between some other vehicles, and also a tier 10 one, the T92 HMC and the M4043. Now, back in the days, I unlocked the T92 HMC because it was the biggest gun in the game. It still is the biggest gun in the game. And the M4043 I basically kept around for doing all the missions. And you can see my win rate out of the, all the other vehicles right here. The win rate is not very good. And that basically is because they're artillery pieces, and the artillery pieces, yeah, you cannot win the game by yourself because you have to rely on RNG so much. So what has happened with the patch that Wargaming have released? Well, the splash damage has been reduced. The stun effect has been reduced by a little bit, but other than that, the vehicles most of the vehicles still remain untouched. They did change some of the velocity on the shells. I think some of the vehicles lost a little bit of velocity, but only 5%, so it's not going to be a huge impact. Other than that, they didn't really change a lot of other things. They said they would manually change all the different vehicles, but what they have basically ignored completely is the entire mess that we have at tier 6, 5, and 7, where artillery pieces have extremely high DPM, and they can basically one-shot other vehicles because they have enough pen to do so, and their alpha damage is good enough to basically destroy any of those vehicles that is not armored at all, like the Jackson or the Hellcat or the T29 or the T37, quite easily with a single shot. You can even penetrate an M4 A3 Easy 8 because it only has 63 millimeters of frontal armor. Now, the big issue right here is obviously going to be like the most overpowered artillery in the game, and we can actually talk about it a little bit. Now, you can see I own the M44 in my garage as well, because back in the days when this vehicle wasn't nerfed at all, it actually had heat rounds as secondary, as premium shells. It doesn't have any premium shells anymore, but those heat rounds, you were able to do, I think, about up to 650 damage if you managed to penetrate those, and it was quite easy to penetrate those shots. And the rate of fire was also very, very what should I say, very, very aggressive in the sense of you were able to do a lot of damage in a very quick succession. You can see right here the rate of fire on this vehicle with, 17.17 seconds reload time. Now that's not a lot of time you have to reload for an artillery. It does fire 105mm shells every single time. It has an average of 39mm of penetration. And yeah, its alpha damage is 550. So if we take a look at tier 6 and we maybe go through some ranks like tier 6 right here. Okay, German tanks. Yeah, the Nashorn. Let's check out the Nashorn real fast. Vehicle details. It has 600 HP. Now, I think about 8, okay, let's say about 6 out of 10 shots will be a one-shot kill if you do manage to hit this guy, because the armor is only 30mm thick. Now imagine you're a Nashorn. You're never supposed to be sitting out in the open somewhere. But if you're a Nashorn and M44, sees you somewhere sitting around, he's going to be annihilating you every 17 seconds with a shot that can one-shot you every 17 seconds. Now, the Jagdpanzer 6, it should have more armor. Its hull armor is 80 and 40 on the side and 20 on the rear. But still, at the same time, if it hits on top of the deck, the vehicle only has 600 HP as well. So it's going to be quite easy to actually knock out these vehicles. And you can go on and go on and on. At tier 6, most of the tanks don't have the amazing armor that at tier 7 and tier 8 you will get eventually. That's just the thing. That's why artillery at tier 8 and tier 9 usually is more tolerable, because the DPM of those things is just so much lower, because obviously they don't have a rate of fire that the lower tiers have. And if we just compare, now this is just something I've checked back a couple of days ago, because I was playing my tier 6 vehicle. I was playing my Cromwell Berlin, and I just got annihilated by like the two most overpowered artillery pieces, the M44 and the French Le FE something something, the French artillery piece that is a premium and that I do actually own as well, but I've never really played. And if we actually put this into a comparison with the T92, you'll see just how broken the M44 actually is. You can see that the T92 has a lower average damage per minute than the M44, and at the same time, it only has like 21mm of pen more. So yeah, just let that sink in. Imagine that it has better statistics basically everywhere. The accuracy is better, everything is better. And the T92 just has a bigger gun, 240mm, right? That's that's 135mm more than the M44 has, in the sense of firing the caliber or the size of the round. And it still does more damage than the T92. And my T92 has a pretty good crew, or at least is a 3-skill crew, and it still has less BPM than the M44. Now this is absolutely ridiculous. That is one of the reasons why Wargaming need to readjust the lower tier artillery, because I've seen people running around who are just playing the M44 and nothing else, and it's just like the old school T67 problem where everyone was running around in the T67 stat padding and just, ruining the entire base of tier 5 and tier 6 and tier 4. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to get off my chest. But today we're going to be playing the Object 212 because I need to get enough experience to be able to reach the 261. Now 261, it is a unique and a very cool looking tank destroyer, my god, SPG, and it has a 180mm gun. I thought it was a 210. Okay, I was mistaken. And it has a very interesting gun art, just as this vehicle does have as well. To be fair, I have never really looked at artillery statistics as as closely as I do with normal tanks. But what you can see out of the Soviet artillery pieces is that their accuracy is actually decent to pretty good. with a rate of fire that is okay. But what really does annoy me when playing, Soviet artillery pieces is that the gun arcs usually are very limited, and you only have 4 degrees, to the right, 4 degrees to the left. So that's not yeah, flexibility when you have to, you know, uh, fire at a target that's maybe a little bit more to the left, and you have to completely reposition your vehicle to be able to shoot them. It's not as bad as a tank destroyer, with the Swedish tank destroyers, but still at the same time it is quite annoying. But other than that, it's a huge box. It's an artillery piece. What else should we say about it? Mobility is decent, 35 kilometers per hour. But the main star of this is obviously the gun. We have the 203 millimeter gun, the B4. It does an average of 1,050 damage, but only if you do manage to penetrate. And the pen is only 52 millimeters, so that shouldn't be possible most of the times. But if we do manage to find that one Waffenträger of Panzer IV or the Grille 15 somewhere sitting in a corner, we obviously will have a field day if we do manage to penetrate them. So I'd say without further ado, let's see how artillery does play out there in the wild, and if we can notice any major changes to artillery. Because I can already say right now, I haven't noticed anything changing for better or for worse. Probably statistically speaking, it should be a little bit worse, but to be fair, who knows? We've made it into a game, and it is Live Oaks. Now, Live Oaks for artillery is actually a pretty good place. The map is quite large, at least it's 1,000 square meters, and I think no, it's more. It's obviously more. It's just 1,000 meters in length, and yeah, we have quite a lot of space that we can actually cover, and usually the light tanks don't get too close at the beginning of the match. We should be able to, just sit in the back and deal with anything coming from the tracks. Now, looking at the city, there are actually quite a few spots that we can easily hit. The gun arc of this vehicle isn't too bad either. I think the Soviets were quite good before the British artillery pieces came into the game. I think the Americans are a little bit better than the Soviets with the gun arc at least, but the British obviously take the cake. It's basically a huge mortar that you have with the gun carrier. Hopefully they never built that piece of shit, but I'm not even sure. I'm at least the S-51 that was certainly built, because I saw it in Russia when I was there. But other than that, I think the M12, the M40 maybe, but the 53 and all that kind of stuff. The T92. I think the T92 might have been built, but yeah, I'm not sure. So right there, I'm pretty sure we hit the E50, and what you always want to do when you're playing artillery is you always want to be repositioning your vehicle. After each shot, you move away from the place you were previously, because you can actually see the gun tracers, especially when you're an artillery player. You can see it very easily, and it makes you quite an easy target when you're not careful. So the E50 over there, I'm not sure if we did manage to direct hit him. And yeah, that was a close one, but we didn't actually damage him at all. And that's very interesting to see, because that shot would have at least done about 100 damage previously in the last patch, and it only did like 12 seconds of stun time. So it might actually be a change that did affect, the potency of artillery by a bit. No. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been waiting for. This game just waited like 2 seconds. That was a perfect hit. He didn't move at all. yeah, this is what artillery is also capable of, and I think this is something that should be happening in the game. But yeah, well, you gotta move when you're playing a vehicle that doesn't have any armor. But it has happened a lot of times to me. I know the feeling, and it still sucks. So what we're going to do now is the TS5. It's obviously a vehicle that has a lot of frontal armor. If we don't manage to hit him, yeah, right there, we don't manage to hit him directly, he only gets stunned for like 17 seconds. And previously the stun timer would have been at like maybe over 20 seconds. And yeah, the thicker the armor is on your vehicle and the further away the shell explodes, the less stun you're going to be taking and the less damage you're going to be taking. Which does make sense, right? Because these super heavily armored vehicles, even if, like, okay, if artillery directly hits you, it is going to be doing damage. But if a shell lands right next to you somewhere, it might blow off your tracks, but it shouldn't really damage the interior of your tank, because even the shrapnel is most of the time going to be bouncing off your vehicle. Yeah, but I don't know. World of Tanks is a different story. It's a different environment. It's something completely different. And up until now, we have only damaged one vehicle. No, we have damaged 2 vehicles now with the TS5. Right there, the shot was a bit closer. We did stun him for a bit longer than previously. But yeah, we were wholly ineffective against this TS5. And actually, when you're playing artillery, you do notice the change. At least I do notice it. But if you're not playing, you're still going to be getting stunned. You might not be getting as much damage, dealt by. But this still, still feels like a lot of damage that is being dealt to you, while you're actually incapable of doing anything than just maybe try to get into cover. But it looks like it is a better situation for the players that don't like artillery, and it's a worse situation for the entire arty lovers. But I think that is certainly something that they did announce with it. But yeah, I think it's very problematic that it's only a 30-second timer for me to actually reload my shell. It doesn't take any time at all, and okay, we lightly armored targets still are quite easily stunned, but still, it's kind of gives more power to the very heavily armored vehicles. To be fair, I know that artillery cannot be removed out of the game. That's not something that we're going to be seeing ever, probably. And I can live with the fact that there is artillery in the game. The balancing aspect is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very important to see how this entire thing is going to be balanced. But when I play artillery, I do notice that the changes have occurred. Like previously, I would have probably done 2k damage at least in that match with, splashing the TS5 so close twice or 3 times, and I didn't really do any damage except for maybe that one splash right behind him, where I did manage to do 100 and something damage to him. And yeah, right there, that's 168 damage that I did to him. And I think that is the right way to go, because artillery is not supposed to be the vehicle that does the most damage. Artillery is supposed to be the vehicle that, supports, and I still am in the top 3 vehicles that have dealt damage, 2,200, and as you can see right here, the M53, 55 as well. Yeah, it's very important to know both sides. What can you say? So we actually didn't manage to hit the E50 first before that, but we managed to hit someone, because we did oh no, actually the blind shot was a damaging shot that was a direct hit on the E50, and we dealt 465. still, that's still quite a lot of stun time if you ask me. Like in total, that's 110 seconds, eight stun timers, or 8 times that I stunned people. Yeah, and okay, I didn't get a lot of assistance damage through it, but still, that's 100 seconds of vehicles being stunned. That's still quite annoying when you're playing your tank. But I like the change. I would love to hear your guys' opinion. What do you think? Do you think the change actually goes too far? Does it make the artillery unplayable now? Do you not enjoy artillery anymore? Do you think artillery needs to have a complete overhaul? Like a lot of people want to have the old artillery back. When it doesn't hit you, it doesn't do any damage. But if it does hit you, it's going to do a lot more damage. But yeah, I don't know. Artillery has always been such a sore point. Um, it's very difficult to get it correctly, and I don't see any solution that's going to satisfy all the parties. But right now, I think artillery is in a position where it's okay for me at least. But I'm a guy who doesn't like artillery, so that obviously just says, yeah, artillery is just not very powerful, or not as powerful as it was before, but still can do quite a bit of damage. Yeah, it's very awkward and very weird, and I'd love to hear you guys' opinion. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.